Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of Oklahoma Senate Sit Down. I'm Aaron Cooper with Senate GOP Communications, and today we are honored to have with us Senator Zack Taylor from Senate District 28 here in Oklahoma. He's the newest member of the Oklahoma Republican Caucus. Senator Taylor, thanks for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, you bet. Good to be here, and thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to get started in the Senate.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on board, and I'm glad to talk to you a little bit today so that our folks at home can get to know a little bit about you. So, first things first, I want to mention you come to us from the House, and you served a couple of terms there. But what I wanted to focus on first was your swearing in the Senate was a bit unique because right now the Capitol, including the Senate chamber, where the Senate meets during session, is under renovation. So you were there, you were wearing a hard hat and safety goggles and taking all the precautions because the Senate is full of scaffolding so they can do work on the ceiling. So what was that like doing your swearing in and wearing a hard hat?
Well, that was a little different experience. It's definitely one for the memory books. We did have to wear all the safety equipment like you referenced, and I was very limited on who could be there on the floor with me. So it was really just my wife and my daughter, and then whoever else had to be there to make it all official. So it was a very unique experience, but definitely one that we will remember from now on.
Yeah, it's going to be, like you said, one for the history books, and we have lots of pictures of it. And it's a preview of what's going to happen in November. So you won a special election to fill the remainder of a senator who resigned to seek other opportunities. So the other senators who are on the ballot will be sworn in November. So you got a couple of months head start on them, but that's a preview of what's to come. Is we're going to have 20 some odd senators wearing hard hats and safety gear, and the Chief Justice wearing the same, swearing them in. So it was really interesting and great nostalgia for all the Senate history buffs out there.
Sure.
So you were from Seminole in Senate District 28, and I thought that's got to be a cool experience, being able to represent your hometown in the Senate. So tell us a little bit about what that's like, and then also tell us a little bit about the district as a whole, what some towns, the counties, in the areas that you represent.
Yeah, it is a unique experience basically growing up somewhere. I've been there since third grade, and then ending up representing them first in the House and then transitioning to representing them in the Senate. So it's been a real honor that the people of the district have entrusted me with that. I don't take that lightly. But it also, it's a little different in that situation because it is where I've grown up. It's the only place I've ever known as home, so I definitely want what is best for that area and what's best for the state. Now, the district overall, the Senate district is heavy on the Lincoln County side. I'm from Seminole County. It just covers about half of Seminole County, and it covers all of Lincoln County. So through the campaign process, I was able to make a lot of good friends and meet a lot of new people up in Lincoln County. And then it covers, a good portion of Pottawatomie County as well. So it was a great experience through the Senate campaign, meeting more people, getting different points of view. You're always surprised at how much can change from one county to the next on what their needs are and kind of what needs done for them. To either get the state out of the way or to help their business or to help their way of life. So that was a really interesting thing to me. It was really diverse, more so than my House district. So it was a lot of fun getting to figure that out and, like I said, meet more people.
So I've heard this from other senators, especially those in rural parts of the state, and I'm just curious to get your take. They say that when you come from a rural part of the state that you're, I guess how I'll describe it is you're more famous than maybe say some of the senators who represent urban areas or suburban areas. And then I wonder if that's compounded since you're representing your hometown. So like if you go to the grocery store or if you're at church on Sunday, does everybody want to come up to you and obviously they want to say hi, how you doing, but do they also want to ask you what's going on at the Capitol or tell you about an issue they're having? Do you find that happening more often?
Oh yeah. Anytime I go out to the store, I'll always see someone I know. We go out to eat. I see somebody I know. They all want to, ask about kind of what's going on at the Capitol. They might want to talk about what they see as a problem. Um, my family has learned that going out to eat or going to a store can be a much longer process than it used to be. And it's not in a bad way.
Right.
It's enjoyable. It's just different than it used to be. It's just something we've had to get used to. But yeah, in a small town, you know a lot of people, especially in a small town that you've grown up in. So yeah, you spend a lot of time talking to people. And church is a whole new experience as well.
You mentioned your family and part of the experience, going to the store or going out to eat, people want to come up, talk to you. So it extends the process here, but how have they handled overall the life of a legislator's family, with you gone at the Capitol, basically January through May, Monday through Thursday, long hours for committee meetings
Right.
with constituents, etc. How have they handled that, and how has it helped you during your service so far?
Well, overall, they've done really well, been extremely supportive. My first campaign in the House, my daughter was just 3. So she put on a campaign shirt and waved flags and went to all the parades with us. So, they've been right there by my side all the way. So that's been a huge blessing, because without them, I just don't know that you could do it, honestly. But it's a struggle for them as well. I mean, their life changed just as much or more than mine. Because like you said, I'm away a lot during session, and although I am close enough that I get to drive home, it takes me about an hour to drive home. There are many, many nights that I get home after my daughter's gone to bed. So although I do get to sleep in my own bed, I don't always get to put my daughter to bed. But, so overall, it's been just a different experience. I wouldn't say bad in any way. Just a really unique thing. And again, it's an honor to serve the state, and I just couldn't do it without my family's support, I don't think.
Right, and we can't stress enough anytime we're talking with legislators that the job of a legislator is not just January through May. It's 24/7, 365. Constituents always need help, whether they're interacting with a state agency or there's a regulation that's harming their business, or they, as we've seen in 2020, they've had issues with unemployment insurance and needed to reach out to their legislators. So the job is year round, and we would be remiss if we didn't also mention the sacrifice that families make to have their loved ones serve and how much they support. And so it's really a family affair. And here in the Senate, we like to try to recognize that. And we're so appreciative of families too, of how they support senators. And we certainly are glad they do that.
Yeah.
And you said, we were talking before we started recording here, you said your daughter just recently had her first day of school. So I guess you were able to be there for that, since we're in the interim right now. How did that go?
It was great. I don't really recall when I was a little kid being excited about school. That just wasn't something that excited me. I was busy having fun at home in the summers, and I didn't want to go back to school. But my daughter's different. It's been a different experience with her. She gets extremely excited about going back to school, seeing her friends, going back and learning with her teacher. She gets real excited about math. So it was really fun. She started first grade 1 week ago today, and it's really a joy to see your child excited about learning and excited about going back to school. So
that's really awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I know. There were lots of times I wasn't excited to go back to school either, but we make it through,
right.
and then our kids can be excited about it. That's great to hear. So
Yeah,
let me
I
ask
hope
you.
that doesn't change.
Yeah, hopefully it won't. She sounds like she's geared for school, so that's good.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about in your private sector, your I guess I could say your real job, so to speak. You work at a family business in oil and gas exploration. So tell me a little bit about how what it's like to work with your family in a family business.
So I'll give you just a little bit of background on my family business. Back in like 1989, 1990, my dad, my grandpa, and my uncle started buying oil and gas leases. They started small, and all throughout the time when I was a kid, they just bought a few wells at a time and tried to grow the business. At that time, they were all still working other jobs, and they were just kind of doing that on the side.
Right.
And then after my grandpa passed away, I became a more integral part of the business. I graduated Oklahoma State University in 2005 with a Bachelor of Science degree, and I ended up going into business with my dad and my uncle. So fast forward to today, I am now partners in that family business. It's a third, a third, and a third. My dad, my uncle, and myself operate and own approximately 50, 55 oil wells, primarily in Seminole County. Anybody that has worked in a family business knows it's a unique experience. It's different than any other partnership. Sometimes there's different kind of strains and constraints on that. But overall, it's a very rewarding experience as well. On my way up here today, I was, had a phone conversation with my dad, and we were talking about employees and kind of what that's going to look like. And, it's a different kind of deal when you have a family business and you're pretty hands-on. Both my dad and I are very hands-on in our business. And you want to go on vacation as a family. You all want to go together. That there's constraints on that, but overall, it's very rewarding to see the success come true. I mean, it's been a long process for our family business, but as in any business, there's ups and downs, highs and lows, and especially in the oil and gas business, as we know in the state of Oklahoma.
Does it give you a better understanding, or how does it impact your job as a legislator? You own a business and run a business and have employees, and then you get to be a House member, now a senator, making laws that impact people's business. Does that give you a better, deeper understanding of that process and inform your decision making?
Well, I believe it does. I think it's very important for people legislators to understand how much we do up here can affect businesses and people's livelihoods. And what I tell people at forums is, yes, I know my business very well. I know the ins and outs of everything, what the government could do to get out of the way, what the government could do to make my business better, easier, so forth. But I don't know each and every one of your businesses. So it's very important to me that business owners throughout the district stay engaged, communicate with me in my office, and let me know what the state does right or wrong, or what we could do different to make their business and their livelihood easier and better. So I just think that with that perspective, I think it helps to have that outlook on how you can help better the businesses in your district and in the state overall.
No, it's a great outlook, great perspective, and a good mindset to have as you come to the Capitol and make policies that impact people's livelihoods, like you said. Just real quick, I'm curious, give us an outlook on oil and gas. It's gone through some ups and downs, especially in this year 2020 with the pandemic. What do you think short term, maybe long term? And then you just mentioned it. What kinds of things could happen for the industry to bounce back and recover and get taking off again?
Well, we could probably talk about that subject for an hour, but I'll give you a quick overview, kind of on my view. We broke some records this year that I would really rather not have broken. We went into negative territory on the price of oil, and I know that many people just see that as a one-day deal, and it's important to understand how oil is sold. For many producers, oil is sold on the market on a monthly average basis. So when you go into a negative day for one day there, it really hurts your monthly average. We basically zeroed out 3 days at $15 oil, took it to zero average. So what I'm saying there is it really hurt the monthly average for that month. But it's been a painful process to be in the oil and gas business. I know it's been painful for the state. It's been painful for large and small companies alike. We were just now getting to the point of recovering from the last cycle. We've had these cycles seem to be getting a little closer together, the highs and lows. And I think this was kind of a perfect storm. Not only did we have the Saudis and Russians kind of trying to flood the market, specifically to hurt the United States market share because we were becoming such a producer of power. We had such high production numbers that the Russians and Saudis were trying to take their market share back. And during that time is when COVID hit. And that just really hurt the demand, especially in the short term, because everything shut down completely in the short term. It's still hurting demand somewhat because air travel is so far down. Air travel in the United States is a big demand driver for demand of oil. So we're still struggling with that. There's a lot of things that go into the price of oil, but during a time like this, you see a lot of production go offline. So therefore, even though demand is down, you've got production somewhat down in the United States. So with that, it has propped the price up to around 40 is the price we're getting. It varies from 39 to 43 right now over the past couple of months. That is still just not really enough in our state for the state budget and also for producers to get back at exploration. So in the long term, for producers and exploration companies to get back to drilling and doing what they were before the pandemic, it's going to take price of oil above $50. And for the price of oil to get back above $50, several different things are going to happen. For one, OPEC Plus is going to have to stick to their production cuts and not flood the market again when that comes back up. Number two, this COVID scare, we're going to have to do our best to totally reopen our economy and get the demand back on. Because if demand doesn't recover as price recovers, it'll just be a yo-yo effect. Because as people go back to drilling, the market will be flooded, price will go back down. So I'm hopeful in the long term that demand will come back up, OPEC Plus will do the right thing, and we'll get back above $50. And that'll be what's best for our state and best for our energy companies within the state.
Yeah, we're all really praying for that because Oklahoma is an oil and gas state. We're proud of it, and
Yes.
We need the industry to do well. And so we're praying that that happens. Thank you for the insights. That was really interesting, and it's fascinating to think about the global implications of that impact Oklahoma and then what we do in Oklahoma that can impact the world.
Sure.
That's always really fascinating. So you're coming to us in the Senate with time in the House. So I'm just curious, how do you think that's going to help you as you begin your career here in the Senate, having already been at the Capitol for a bit?
Well, when you become a newly elected legislator, there's definitely a learning curve. When I came up here in May of 2017 as a freshly elected representative, you barely know where the bathroom's at, much less the process for making the sausage. So during my time here, I've learned a lot. I've gone from just knowing what you learn about in school to being committee chairman and being on leadership team and really understanding how the quote sausage is made. So I think that really helps a lot during the transition over to the Senate. I understand the process. I understand what we need to do to move our state forward. I've got quite a bit of experience, although at times it was pretty tough to go through. We've had times of definite budget struggles. We had 1 year of budget surplus, I guess, while I was here. We've had a teacher walkout. So a lot has happened in a short period of time. And none of that is necessarily negative, but it does shape who you are and kind of how you look at the process. So I think it makes me a better person overall, just for me individually. And I also think it makes me a better legislator and better senator.
Yeah, those of you who were elected for the first time around that time, really your stress and your experience levels were compressed into a session or two of what maybe most people would experience over 6, 8, 10 years of service in the Capitol. You guys got really compressed in that amount of time. and I think you're right. I think it shapes you well, and you're going to get off to a running start, I know, here in the Senate. You kind of
Sure.
mentioned this a little bit, but we do deal with a lot of difficult issues all the time, not just, this year with the pandemic, but every year has its tough issues. So I'm just curious to pick your brain a little bit and maybe let you talk about the approach you take to problem solving, the team building, to how do you get folks around an idea to solve some of these complex issues that our state faces.
Well, for me, in any leadership position, whether it be in your church, your local community, or in the legislature, it's very important to realize that you don't have all the answers. You're not the expert in every field. So in my opinion, it is my job as state senator to collaborate with those that do have the expertise. That doesn't mean I'll always agree with their outlook, because I'll get opinions from all sides. I think that's the best way to do it and figure out which way is best for our state. I've learned a lot in my time here about, lobbyists. Lobbyists can give you a lot of information, but you always have to be cautious as to what I'll say spin, and that's not a negative. I'm not putting that in a negative light, but how they'll kind of spin it to what they want out of it. So yes, they do provide you with a lot of good information, but you have to take the facts and lay them against the facts from the other side. So I think it's just very important as leaders, as state leaders, as legislators, that we take the full picture of how this is going to, one, affect our district and affect the state as a whole. It's been very important to me as state representative, and now it will be also as senator, to go back to district and talk to my trusted supporters, trusted business leaders, trusted leaders in the area about what is this particular thing going to look like for you? What is it going to look like for our area? What's it going to how's it going to affect your business? So I will continue in that. And again, I think it's just most important for us to all realize that we don't have all the answers. Anybody that tells you that they have all the answers, they're lying to you. So that's been the most important thing to me as a leader.
No, that's a great perspective. We don't have the answers. And you also have to take into account, you said spin, I'll say everyone has an agenda, which is fine, but you just have to be aware of that and like you said, weigh it against all the other information that you have as you consider solving a problem. We're almost out of time, so I wanted to get to one last question here. So I'm just curious if you have an idea yet. I mean, you've spent a few years here at the Capitol already, so there's probably already some issues that you've learned more about, you've worked on, you've already sponsored and passed legislation. So as you prepare for your first session next year as a senator, do you have an idea yet of what kinds of areas you think you may focus on, or areas that you're looking at to continue your work from the House?
Well, since my main expertise lies in energy, I usually always file an oil and gas bill or two to try to make some adjustments there on things that I think we could do better in the state. But something that I did get very involved in during my time in the House was something that we call the Fresh Start Initiative. Mm-hmm. And that was just a bill that made some adjustments in our occupational licensing laws. In the state of Oklahoma, we license just about everything under the sun as far as occupations. And also, in that licensing process, if people have criminal histories in their past, it was kind of open-ended where they could be denied that license. Well, as we know now, looking back at how we do treat people that have made mistakes, the biggest barrier to reintegrating into society is being gainfully employed. And if someone can't get an occupational license, then that really prevents them from being gainfully employed. And if you're stuck in a rut, you just end up feeling hopeless and helpless. And before you know it, they've committed another crime and they've ended back in the system. So, you know, I really pushed hard to try to fix that. And I realized we had to be careful to still protect the public because that is still our duty. But the bill that did end up passing still protected people against individuals that had made mistakes that were violent and sexual in nature. But if the crime was nonviolent, non-sexual in nature, then that can't be used against them now to deny an occupational license. So I will continue looking at that in the state of Oklahoma, making sure that our occupational licensing boards are doing right by the citizens of Oklahoma, even those that have made mistakes. So I'll continue looking at that. And, you know, I learned a lot on the campaign trail again, I'll mention. And one of the things that is hot button right now is broadband access, rural broadband access. Because so many people have had to work from home. So many kids are now doing school from home. That has really exposed a big weakness there. So we've got to do something about that in rural Oklahoma. Again, I don't have all the answers, but we're going to have to collaborate with all the interested parties, all the experts, and figure out what to do for rural districts like mine. Mine's fairly rural, but there's others across the state that are even more so rural than mine. So we're going to have to address that issue as well. And, you know, also during my time here, we really looked at making government as efficient as possible. And it's very important to me to continue to make sure that the citizens of Oklahoma's money, tax dollars, is spent as wisely as possible. So I think we need to continue that because that is a continual process. I mean, we can't just pass a few bills and say, oh, that's taken care of. We've got to continue to keep a watchful eye on the tax dollars that come in. So things like that are important to me, and I'm sure there's other constituent issues that will come up. And sometimes those are the most rewarding bills, is when you hear from a constituent about something that they have found, something that affects their business that you can change. So those are sometimes the most enjoyable and rewarding.
I can imagine. So I'm based out of the Pro Tem's office here in the Senate, and the Pro Tem had an issue like that where a constituent personally experienced a negative impact of state regulations. And so here in the Pro Tem's office, we worked with that constituent and the agency that dealt with licensing and got it solved and cleared up some things in statute. So now not only would it help that person, but other people that may be in that situation. So it's definitely a rewarding experience when you're able to, connect the dots, so to speak, with that. Right. And you mentioned government efficiency. Plug here for something we like to talk about in the Pro Tem's office a lot, and that's the Legislative Office of Fiscal Transparency, LOFT. Right. We just kicked that off here this year, and it'll be one of those great tools that'll help legislators and the public understand where our tax dollars are being spent and whether or not they're being spent on programs and whether those programs are getting the outcomes that we expect. So that's definitely a big focus of ours here in the Senate.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of just have forgotten about that, but that's a pretty big deal that we passed in the legislature. That's big for the state of Oklahoma, big for the taxpayers of the state of Oklahoma. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what comes out of that.
We are too. And well, Senator Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today. And it's great to just sit down with you and get to know you a little bit. I'm sure we'll have more conversations over time as we get closer to the session. And we're just really excited to have you here. Congratulations again, and welcome to the Senate.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's good to be here. I'm excited to get started. I appreciate you.
And I failed to mention this at the start, but Senator Taylor's in temporary office space right now, which is why it's a blank wall behind him. But once everything gets taken care of in November and we get everything sorted out, we'll have a nice office space for you. And just for the folks at home, you can go to oksenate.gov, and there's a bio page there for Senator Taylor. There's a link for you to email him. You can also find his phone number at his office as a way to get in contact with him. And I'm sure he'd love to talk with you and help you out as best as he can.
Yeah, you bet. I appreciate it. And again, thanks for everything, and looking forward to digging in and getting some things done.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for joining us for this episode of Oklahoma Senate Sit Down. We'll hope you join us again soon. Bye-bye.